You're listening to When Isabel Met Aviva, a podcast about rom-coms, female-driven screenwriting, and how to break into the entertainment industry. I'm Aviva.
And I'm Isabel.
And thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah.
We have a really exciting episode today.
This is going to be a good
every
episode.
Week.
I know.
We're really excited.
I
I need to get a thesaurus with me and think of some other words other than exciting, but we are excited.
Yeah.
And
this is our first guest interview who's not a screenwriter, but we're really excited to chat with her. Her name is Mona May, and she is a costume designer, and she's like the rom-com queen, like costume designer of all of our favorite rom-coms, right? Clueless, Enchanted, Never Been Kissed, Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion. I don't know.
A lot of Disney movies like Xenon the sequel, which I grew up loving.
Wasn't her Waverly Place the movie, right?
Yes, and Cheetah Girls 2.
Oh, yeah.
And just her filmography is iconic, and
so are her costumes.
So are her costumes. Oh my goodness. So such feminine, beautiful costumes that people dress up as for Halloween. Like they dress up as these characters. She really has been incredibly influential in like the costuming world. She's been working in the industry for 30 years. And yeah, we're excited to chat with her all about screenwriting and rom-coms and her costumes. So
yeah,
let's get started.
Yeah, let's bring Mona in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mona, for joining us on our podcast today. We're super excited to chat with you. You're actually our first interview with somebody who isn't another screenwriter. So we have a lot of questions to get your kind of different perspective to the whole creative process. But I think our first question is just to like learn a little bit more about you and your background. Like, how did you get into costume design? And what has that journey been like for you?
Well, great to be here. I love rom-coms myself because I do a lot of them. It's kind of been my forte in my career. I love female-driven stories and really, expressing kind of a girly attitude and how one, grows through experiences and what happens to us as women. And I think it's really, really fun. And I've been very, very lucky, I think, to be able to support these stories, with my costume design. As a costume designer, it's a very interesting job. I think that a lot of people don't really know what it entails because some people think, oh, actors just maybe wear their own clothes or, some people do, like Adam Sandler does wear his own clothes a lot. But, mostly as costume designers, we are really telling the story through the clothes. And I think anybody who is watching a movie and sees an actor on the screen, within 10 seconds, truly, you know who they are. They don't have to open their mouth, and you know how they feel, who they are, socioeconomic, background. Are they depressed? Are they happy? Are they kind of sexual or hiding or, so it's very cool medium, I think. And clothes express so much of ourselves when we wear clothes every day, who we are. I think in the world, it's kind of like our persona, our outer shell, and I think how we feel too. Some days we could feel really bright colors and happy, and some days we are kind of like wearing our gray sweats, and that really expresses something inner of ours that as a, someone watching a movie can really help tell the story. I think it's a very crucial thing, and I'm sure we all have seen movies where it just doesn't really feel like that's the right thing. A teacher wearing Gucci, or and she makes whatever 50,000 a year, or somebody's too sad and they should be happy. So it's a very interesting, I think. You have to tread lightly when you're costume designing and really get into the characters. And I do that with the director. Number one, I get the script, we go over the story and really try to understand what is their, what story are they telling? Because I'm supposed to tell the story of, different director will tell the story differently. So we kind of dive into this. I do a lot of presentations and boards with some directors don't know fashion, so you have to be more expressive and really explain. It's an A-line dress or it's a puffy sleeve, or how does that maybe relate to culture or fashion at the moment. Because they may not understand it, not being a fashion person. Like Amy Heckling loves fashion, so it was so fun and easy working on Clueless. But Romy and Michelle, director, wasn't really a fashionista at all. David Mirkin, so different ways you have to support the director, and then you get into it with the actor, which is a very important part. So really, truly, the Drew Barrymore who goes shopping with me, and Alicia Silverstone, and Anna Ferry was really involved in coming into my room, and we spent a lot of time really trying different things on and really figuring out what that is, the blend of the actor itself and the character, because sometimes it may look really well on my presentation, but when you in the fitting and put that on an actor, it may have complete different, not desired effect. You may be like, oh, I thought you were going to look really good in this pencil skirt, but it makes you look like a secretary. And that's not, so everybody's body will take on and tell a different story. Like same with the two of you. If I put the same sweater on you, it would look completely different, and it will express maybe on you it'll be too tight, on you it'll be too loose. The color would not be wrong with your skin tone, whatever that is. So that's a really kind of the fun, exploratory time for me and an actor, to really figure out the character, who they are. And I think comedies are really important in a way where you can go too far. Like I think when you're writing comedy, when you're writing as a writer, the jokes, it's a one thing on the page, but when it comes and it's verbally said, and then the actor is wearing the clothes, and maybe there's crazy production design surrounding them, the walls, it may just get so wild. It's like, okay, what's going on here? They wrote a bad joke, and maybe it's not really a bad joke, but it got bad because all the puzzle pieces didn't really relate to what it had to be said and what it really the story is in that moment for the film. So it's very interesting. I think the costume, I think, can really make or break a film, in a sense. So I'm really happy and kind of really it amazes me kind of the skill that I have to tell a story, because it's, I tread lightly. I'm very fun. I think there's a lot of exuberance and excitement when I do costumes, but I really try to be very authentic. Let's talk about Clueless. It was a very interesting movie to work on, because number one, it was grunge, 1995, 94 when we started prepping it. So there was nothing to relate to. And the story was about girls that had a lot of money and could go to runway shows in Milan and London and New York and Paris and pick their clothes, but they were high school girls. So how do you approach it? I mean, you can just go and look at the runway shows and bring some clothes and put them on the girls, but they would look like slutty models, in their little high heels. So then you have to take that information as a costume designer. What's happening in the world? What's the future? Because the present is not really what we want to reflect. Bring that into the character and the story, and kind of translate it into their world of high school girls. So it's still very innocent and cute and fun and feminine and pretty. And I think that's also part of why Clueless is still so beloved, because it has some certain innocence, I think, and beauty, female, that we don't really get a lot these days, and that was really important for Amy Heckerling, the director, really bring that youthfulness, the high fashion, but blended with the youthfulness. So the girls look very authentic. You love the girls, you know who they are.
Yeah.
And
I
Amy,
love the Clueless outfits, and the whole film, is about fashion. That's such a huge theme of the film, with the closet and the technology and everything.
Yes, but it was about friendship, and it was about these girls. So we really, it was written so well. I mean, the language, I think, again, as we talked about, the different elements coming together, I mean, and this beautiful ingenue, Alicia Silverstone, who was 18, who just was just this ray of light and sunshine,
Yeah.
I mean, talking about, specific outfits. I mean, this is very interesting story about the yellow suit that she wears in the beginning, of the movie when she comes to school, because here's Cher. So what would be the first day of school, what she could wear? We always think Catholic girls' school, plaid is always in, a little
Yeah.
pleated skirt, kind of the sweater vest, that kind of is that idea, beginning of thinking about what that would be. But then, of course, it's Cher, so she would go and get something designer. So, a
Yeah.
suit would be probably appropriate. I started looking around for plaid suit. I saw a blue one. I saw a really cool red one. I came across the yellow and I was like, oh, I don't know. Yellow and the blonde, probably not really great, but it's such a great color. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Let me bring it into the fitting. We started the fitting. Emmy's there. Alicia, of course, is trying the clothes on. We put the blue on. It's beautiful on her, but it's just not really. It doesn't say anything. It's just pretty blue
Yeah.
plaid suit. We tried the red one, and it's very gorgeous. Again, red on the blonde, I think is so pretty, but it was too Christmassy. It just kind of looked like, okay, this is not first day of school. All right, let's try the yellow. And the moment she put it on, it was like a ray of light, of sunshine. It was so pretty. We all were like, oh, this is it. And, we thought about, okay, she's in the quad, so she's outside with all the green. There's a lot of people crossing. We want something that will pop. It truly was like made her the center attention of that scene, of that, uh, it's the opening of the film. So that yellow was really so appropriate. And again, talking about color, to me, color has so much energy. Color itself, like red has energy, blue has energy, yellow has energy. So that energy was so uplifting. So it's interesting how it all has to come together, as a storytelling with all the different elements. And truly, we were like, we all had goosebumps, and basically it was like, this is it. This is like amazing. And look at this. It's iconic. I mean, I'm writing a book, and I think what I'm going to do is actually put just yellow plaid on the cover.
Oh
And
my
put
gosh,
my
that's
name on it,
perfect.
right? I mean, it's like,
Yes.
it's enough.
That's what we
It's
associate
enough,
with that film for
right?
sure.
So it's
And it's the
amazing.
Halloween costumes. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So it's it's really interesting how that movie uh, is really part of our culture.
It is.
Fashion and culture. And I mean, Kim Kardashian wore the outfit this holiday, Halloween holiday with her daughter.
Yes.
So and I mean, beautifully done. I was very happy to see it. I mean, she has like 360 million followers, which I got
Yeah.
them over to my side, but but again, it's being reminded to the world like what that movie, how that movie lives in our psyche,
Yeah.
and that's,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, talking back to your show, rom-coms, how that really makes us feel. It's so beautiful, it's really kind of, so much that when I'm out in the world and talking to women and lecturing or just being at a party, women come to me and they really just, there's so much emotion when it comes to seeing these movies, and Clueless especially, how it's changed them or how it makes them feel. They always want to watch it when they feel down, and it uplifts them. So I think that's what's so great about rom-coms. I mean, it's really kind of like the story of us girls that are not told so many times, and to be told, like, I love Never Been Kissed. It's one of my one of my favorite films because it's such a cool story of her being kind of this little ugly duckling, and then going to school and wearing these crazy outfits because she thinks that's what's cool, with the yellow lemon
Yeah.
bag and the white
Yes.
The
boa.
white
Love
boa,
it.
yeah.
But
That's
then,
one of my favorite rom-coms like ever.
really,
I'd
I mean,
say Never Been
Yeah.
Kissed. Yeah, I think I love late bloomer rom-coms. Like I
yeah.
love how it's about an adult who still feels like she's stuck in high school and in that same mindset, and then has to go back and like figure out who she is as an adult. It's really moving.
I love that, and kind of that search, and again, if you look at the movie from the costume standpoint, kind of the ugly clothes and then kind of the silly clothes, the kind of really not fitting in, and then in the end when you
Yeah.
see her, in the pink chiffon dress, it's all grown up. It kind of shows her cleavage. It's very feminine. It's beautiful. She's a woman. She's like ready
So
to.
good.
She's embraced herself, and I
Yeah.
think that, to me, as a filmmaker and as an artist, what a most great expression of my art that can help women and young woman, older woman, anyone to feel good about themselves, to feel like, you know what, I can reach my potential. I can be
Yeah.
the cool girl, no matter what, no matter, where I'm coming from and what my circumstances were. I mean, same with House Bunny, and I think it's such a cool story too. That was actually a very difficult film to make from costume, because I had 7 girls going
Oh
through all
wow.
the transformations. So you had
Yes.
the ugly
Mhm.
ducklings, which they're like, oh, really ugly. Then you going to the hyper kind of, sex bombs
Right.
made by Shelley, so kind of a little bit Playboy bunny in them and
Mhm.
exposed and trying to be something that they don't even know about, who, how to embrace it. And it was, it's interesting to working with actors too that way, because it's like, how do they have to transform, they have to find that
Yeah.
character and then transform that character. So I think that's a very cool movie to watch, because you have these very specific character, like the punk rock girl or the farm girl or the,
Mhm.
Emma Stone, being kind of the collegiate
Yes.
girl.
Mm.
But how do they transform within that character? So
Yeah.
they still
Yeah.
themselves somewhat as you see
Yeah.
them transform, which was really fun to do, but hard, because there's only that many colors in the rainbow. Too, everybody has their own color palette and stay in their lane, and everybody has their needs, of course, as actors and girls. Like, oh, what about this? Oh my God,
Mhm.
So that's something that I have to deal a lot with, and be a little bit part psychologist, part mom as a costume designer,
Yeah.
because you have to kind of find a very safe space for an actor
Yeah.
in a fitting
Yeah.
room, to kind of be able to expose. I mean, Anna Faris, even, for her, she had an amazing body, but still, that's a lot to show and a
Yeah.
lot to
Yeah. So
find,
revealing. Yeah. Revealing
feeling.
outfits for sure.
But it was really fun, I think, in that film, because that character, again, was written so beautifully, where she really wasn't like slut. She wasn't just kind of like ugly, overdone Playboy bunny. I mean, to me,
Mhm.
again, there's something about these movies, and maybe that's part of this charm of rom-coms, that innocence.
Right.
She was kind of like this
Yeah.
innocent girl. She's like, I'm too old for Playboy, and I'm not so pretty.
Mhm.
Maybe I
Even
know
though
I'm
she's in her like
pretty.
upper 20s.
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah, I'm not smart enough, and all this stuff. And it's like, as you, go through the film, it reveals that she's smart enough, and she's gaining kind of understanding of who she is,
Yeah.
and. But it was fun working with Anna, because we really found that balance, that kind of cuteness and sluttiness in the right balance, which I think was, again, could charm the viewer.
Yeah. Yeah. She's incredibly charming in that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And I think there's some kind of sweetness that you love her. You just kind of can't stop just rooting for her. And I think
Yeah.
that's the kind of
Mhm.
stories that you as writer, I think, need to write, that we just want to, kind of root for the underdog and the
Right.
girls, and the, that good things are going to happen. I mean, look at life. I mean, it's what the shit we're living through right now. It's hard as hell. Wake up every morning. It's like, oh. So those are the stories that just kind of make us feel like, okay, you know what? It's going to be
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really help stay positive. Yeah. I'm curious, when you're reading a script for the first time, do you, and you're, going to be working on the project or considering it, do you like when there's a lot of description with clothing and the type of, like, what kind of clothing the character might wear, or do you prefer to kind of add elements that aren't there?
I think it really depends on the writer, because if somebody who's writing doesn't know clothes,
Yeah,
it's kind of like, I don't know. So there's a
totally.
lot of discussion, I think, and kind of, again, education between me and the director or the writer, where we, like, for example, in Clueless, Amy is a brilliant director, of course, Amy Heckling, but the uh, clothes, the specific things that we now think of, like the red Alaya dress, it wasn't written as red Alaya dress, because we had to find the dress, and then we
Yeah,
wrote that it was an Alaya. Same with the Calvin Klein dress. It was something
yeah,
that had to be revealing, so we knew that it had to be revealing. The dad got mad. It looks like a lingerie, but what it exactly was, that gets figured out in the fittings, and through
yeah.
my ideas to the table. So I mean, I think I like where writers are into it, and can give it, because then there is at least a starting point of discussion. What is in their heads, and if they are not female, they kind of may not really understand what female body, and then also, actor body. Are they plus size? Are they,
Yeah.
skinny? That all I have to take under consideration how they would look. I mean, uh, especially when you work in movies like Enchanted, when there's 2D animation and live action and different actors
Yes.
running around, in different mediums. I mean, that was also a really fun film to do because it truly was kind of the fairy tale story of a princess turning into a human,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
shedding her layers, so she comes from this 2D animation world with giant dress and big poofy hair and eyelashes, and the dress is like almost three-dimensional with butterflies, and she sings. And then as you see her, she goes from that to the curtain dress, which is simpler but still very,
Yes.
princessy, and uh but the hair is starting to kind of unravel. Then you get the next dress, which is like a little bit of a cocktail dress, the flower dress, that she goes shopping in. So now that's more modern. Maybe that could have been already. I think it's very current, almost.
Yes.
Like almost a contemporary dress, still very full in a skirt, like 50s. But I think if somebody came to a luncheon in that dress, they would
Hmm.
be approved.
Yeah.
Uh, and then when and then the final kind of a moment, really true moment of that movie, that heart moment to me, where I supported with this purple gown that she wore to the ball, and everything is stripped. I mean, it's completely just fitted to her body.
I love that look.
Hair
I
is straight.
Yes.
I mean, there's imperfection in her skin tone. No more eyelashes. I mean, this is it. This is it. This is
Yeah.
who she is. She is like, I now will reveal myself, and decide to feel everything, feel the feelings, and be there. And I mean, that so much thought goes into these moments. Like, what color the dress would be. Again, we don't do one in black because it's like too evil. No red.
Yeah.
No. I mean, yellow is not a good color for any, not many skin tones. So it was like
Hmm.
purple royal, and again the
Yeah.
royalty.
Yeah.
So much goes as a costume designer, and I'm glad I can talk about it to you, especially when you have maybe more writer or directors, or
Yes.
who listen. That it's such a cool process, and it's so much detail in that. That goes into it, really thinking this storyline and kind of the arc of the character and what happens and when would they wear the dress, or maybe that's too soon,
Right.
revealing something or not. I mean, I really watch for that when I watch movies. That's really interesting for me to see how they really did they get it right or not.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
important. It's really it's the emotional expression of the character. The costume really.
Yes.
It's the lines, of course, but again, truly, before they open their mouth, before they say the line, you
Yeah.
already
Hmm.
made your decision kind of who they are. I mean, we do all the time on the street, like, oh my God, look at that person. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's seconds, right? It's like, it's so interesting.
We had a question. I guess we were wondering, at what point do you get brought into the production? Like, I'm assuming they already have the actor cast, right? And then
Not
are you
always.
looking? Okay.
Not always. Not always. It really depends. I mean, some projects I'm on for a long time because they're in development and I'm, part of the director's team. Uh, but sometimes very late, too. They maybe couldn't make the decision or somebody fall out or whatever. So it really just depends. I mean, big
Mhm.
movies like Enchanted, I'm not on it for 7 months because I'm drawing and I'm,
Yeah.
working
Right.
with animators and stuff. Clueless was quite small movie at the time in 1995. It was a $25 million budget,
Hmm.
not big. I mean, I had the usual 8 weeks to prep, and that was a lot of work, and I think I was just so young and really kind of naive that I didn't even blink twice, to read that
Hmm.
there's like 60 changes for the main character and, 50
Yeah.
changes for the second. And then you have to dress the whole school and every little extra because they have to fit
Yeah.
into this world. There was no people dressing like this. Everybody was in grunge. So when they came at five
Hmm.
in the morning, all the extras, we had to give them backpacks and hats and,
Wow.
and
Wow.
put color on them and make them with different clicks and stuff. So all of that, that creates
Yeah.
kind of the background. And I think, again, my movies, I really take pride in that part is very important to me, that you tell the story with everybody. So when you
Yeah.
never been kissed, look at the kids, look at the ballroom scene,
Mm-hmm.
all the prom
Yes.
stuff, all the different things, like everything is done to the T, because to me, again, camera is like an eye, artist eye, so whatever it sees, we're going to react to it. If it's not part of the story, I mean, okay, the girls are cute and clueless, but then there's like brunch people sitting on the grass in the quad, like, what is that?
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Amy Heckling is so great too, because she writes, there was like a lot of, at the time, people were doing nose jobs, so we had the nose
Yes.
job things, all that kind of cultural stuff that was
Yeah.
expressed, and it's really fun. So I think answering your questions is really depending. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been hired a lot of times of like 911 too, when they fire two costume designers, and I have to come in like in the middle of production or
Oh, wow.
5 days before they shooting and fix it and get it right. Sometimes it just doesn't work right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really it's interesting. It's interesting. It's a lot of work. Costume design is a lot of work. It's not a makeup artist when you come in with your little box of makeup and put it on. You have to,
Mm-hmm.
visualize the clothes. You have to prepare the storylines, and then you have to convince the directors and the actors, and get everybody on board. You have to make sure the budget is right, because now clothes cost a lot of money, and studios think it's still, you can get a shirt for $12.99, and keeping on budget. And now with the new, who knows, with the new kind of film industry, what's going to happen, with all the new
Yeah.
contracts, will we get enough money in time, where is the money going, and what they willing to really give us to have the creativity. Those times when I worked on the big movies, and I mean, on Never Been Kissed or House Bunny, I had like 2 trucks full of clothes.
Wow.
Will they spend the money on rom-coms? They may be like, oh, it's just a rom-com, just give him a shirt or give him a dress.
No.
So those are times kind of that I was very lucky to be part of, where
Right.
filmmaking, it's like living. What's the movie you mentioned? Seattle.
Oh, Sleepless in Seattle. Mm-hmm.
Those kind of movies that it's like, they were based on a script, they were based on stories. They were given
Yes.
the money and attention. Now I think that just we are in such a different way of what is wanted.
Yeah.
uh, I think as a writers, I'm sure it must be very hard too, because you're kind of not pitching really anymore. It's like they just tell you what they want, and
Yeah.
same with me. It's like I may have these grand ideas, but in the end, when I don't have the money or the crew to do it, how do I express my vision? And I have such high standards, and
Mhm.
my body of work. I don't want to do a shitty job, and my name is there. People are
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, Mona May, we want to see Mona May movie. It's like. So it's interesting,
Totally.
it's a new world, that we all have to kind of navigate and see what
And
you know.
I'm curious, like for Enchanted, obviously, like you can't just buy those dresses, like you had to design them and build them, sew them.
A lot of
Um, yeah, like I'm curious, how often are you designing custom pieces versus buying clothing that, you could find at a store?
it all, the story and the money, budget, time dictates
Yeah.
all. So it really, I mean, Enchanted again, $1 million budget for costumes. Everything is made.
Gorgeous.
The white
Yeah.
dress, 11 of those white dresses.
Oh my gosh.
Because we had to have a
Wow.
clean one, the wet
Oh
one,
my
Oh, right. Yeah.
coming out of
gosh.
a manhole
Yes.
one, singing cleaning song one. Then we had the stunt girl hanging off the billboard. I mean,
Yes.
all of the different, so this is a whole different kind of level of things, designing and also working with the animators, and
Hmm.
you also recreating iconic characters from Disney. I mean, it's like very,
Yes.
it's you gotta tread lightly. You can't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love the Sound of Music references too, and
Yes,
like in
right. Oh
in
my God,
Enchanted as well. I love those. I love that
totally.
movie as
So I
well.
think it
And
depends on, again, like Clueless. I only had a certain amount of money, so I put it when I
yeah,
needed it. I bought the designer pieces, and I think again, sometimes when you are in a tight spot, it creates some creativity, because in Clueless, I didn't have all the money to buy designers' clothes. It's not Sex in the City. Imagine this is
yeah,
before
Right.
computers, before
yes,
PR. I had to kind of orchestrate everything. Call Paris, can we get this Alaya dress borrowed? And maybe we tell them it's going to be on the ground, and can we still return it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's before these big PR machines, so in Clueless, but there was kind of the mother of invention. What happened, I was able to kind of get the designer stuff, then I thrifted, then I went to the mall, to create the new look that didn't exist. And it became something super fresh because at the time, no one wore clothes like that. People just wore designer,
Yes.
or they were kind of in their vintage lane. So this kind of way of that we dress now, which is high and low, we call it, and you have the Balenciaga bag with your ripped jeans and flip flops. It didn't
Yeah.
exist, so that was also very fresh. Something about that film that. So again, it's interesting how all of that just makes you be more creative of what.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's just not enough time to build things. When it's like no time, no money. Okay, but maybe we can do one thing on this film that's kind of is made.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
kind of
really interesting.
curious to know how did you get into this? Were you always like into fashion or like making your own clothes?
Always. I was that kid that was like, dressing the dolls and having a little collection, and then, drawing the little outfits, and, making sure they have plenty of different choices, and then, dressing mom and telling her what to wear, at like 6-year-old. I was also into sports very much. So, I wanted maybe be a ski person. I've loved skiing, but all my life too. But art won in the end, and I'm very happy because I always took art classes, and so fashion. So I studied fashion, and always wanted to be a fashion designer. And I was studying in Europe. Then I went to New York. Then I ended up in LA by crazy circumstances, and went to Fashion Institute. And while I was in school, of course, you hang out with the boys, and they were going to USC film school or UCLA film, and they're like, "Hey, you in fashion? We're doing these little projects, our little films. Can you bring some clothes? Here's a script." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And it was amazing to experience this storytelling right away. I was like, "Wow, this is so cool." You just kind of figure out what they wear, and then tell the story. And I was really good at it. I was on time. I had a car, and I fell in love with it. I really kind of fell in love with this different way of using clothes, to tell a story. And I really had really a lot of fun with it right away. And, what was really amazing about Clueless, it was kind of like pinnacle of being able to marry my love of fashion and costume. So it
Yeah.
was like made in heaven project for me at the time. And I met Amy on the pilot actually before Clueless, and we did a pilot.
Oh.
Pilot didn't get picked up, but it was about two fashion girls living in New York. Uh, and when she wrote Clueless, she called me and said, "I really want you to do this because you studied in Europe, the kind of the high fashion, and this is what it really requires." And I think she also saw something in me, which now we talk about as the global point of view. We didn't have that coin yet
Yeah.
then, but I think I grew up in Poland and Germany. I was born in India. I lived in all over the world, and so I also had kind of a bigger point of view before the computers, before you kind
Yeah.
of were able to kind of tapped into with Instagram all over the world, a view that I think helped the film stay timeless. So the pieces, when you're really looking at it, and that's something fun to talk about too for rom-coms, what is it that kind of we love on the girls? It's the cuff
Yes.
sleeves, plaid skirts, empire waist dresses, the femininity of things. And I think that's part of rom-coms too, that gives us the pleasure of watching it and having fun. Like the plaid coat that she has, the berets. I mean, that stuff is timeless. The twin
Yeah.
sweater
It is.
sets. Um, so it was really fun to be able to be asked to do that, and fulfill my dream, and it's right. I mean, that was one of my, first big studio films. I didn't even have an agent, and it just took off like crazy. And I had an agent, and I was doing, one rom-com after another. And I mean, if you really look at the 90s movies, I'm the queen,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Wedding Singer, Never Been Kissed, Romy and Michelle. I mean, Night at the Roxbury, it's like all the movies that we really think of 90s, I mean, there's a few, of course,
Mhm.
other ones, but it's kind of the bulk of my, really bringing this feeling that you talk about, these rom-coms
Yeah.
and fun to the screen.
Yeah. They do have a timeless quality, and a lot of those outfits I still think I'm starting to see, now, and like I feel like a lot of the dresses Cher wears and things like I would buy now
Yeah,
if they
Yeah.
were available.
yeah, yeah. Interesting, like even when you think of Rami and Michelle,
Yeah.
they're older and a little more sexual, a little different, to Clueless girls,
Mhm.
and they were a little bit of like funny Valley Girls caricatures,
Yeah.
a little bit,
Mhm.
and but again, I took it to the point where it was just there, but
Yeah.
not overly,
Yeah.
So hopefully I can use the term drag queens anymore, but they didn't become this kind of overpowered, made up
Yeah.
girls.
Yeah.
It was just enough. So it's like it's such a fine line of like finding that right balance with the script and the actor and stuff. So I think when you write now, hopefully you think differently when you think of scenes.
Yeah.
And, I would love to teach this class actually to writers and actually directors more. And it's not enough. They don't really bring us enough into those rooms, and I think would be super informative. And I think the collaboration would be really a better collaboration if we kind of, you guys knew more of the language.
Yeah.
Yes, you're really making me think about like a character arc
Mhm.
via clothing that I've never really thought about much as a writer. Yeah, like how of course what the person ends up wearing at the end shows her character development and where she went in the story.
Completely, and
So,
how that expresses kind of that emotional state that she's now in, whatever
yes.
that would be. And everything matters: the color, the fabric, the
Yeah.
texture, the fit. So it's really interesting. And I mean, I do spend a lot of time thinking about it when I prep in my head, when I do boards and stuff. It really, and really, again, going back to the earlier conversation about the fitting room. I mean, that's kind of my laboratory. That really, when it all comes together, really when you see it, all the elements of the body and the body language and shape of the body of an actor and everything come together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is really inspiring me. I feel like I think you're so right that it would be that like I would totally take that class if you did that because I don't know if
Right?
most writers think that detailed about their character, especially
Mm-hmm.
like I guess it kind of depends on the story, but um I don't know, it makes me think more about like how I want in that first scene how you see her, when like, if the character is depressed or
Yeah.
down and like, we're going to see her journey at the end and she's not going to be like wearing her sweatpants and all dirty and have holes in her clothes.
Right.
Like she's
Right.
going to have like that reveal at the end where she's become who she is. And so it does, now I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about like, yeah, there is that. It's so true what you're saying. Like it does matter like what she's wearing in that first moment when you're meeting her at her
And I
low
think the
point.
beats too,
Mm-hmm.
where like the beats, so like not too
Yes.
soon, or
Yeah, yeah.
not too. Um, I mean, there's an interesting movie out, Maestro, right now that my esteemed colleague and super talented designer did, and there's one in it's amazing movie, amazing costumes, everything. He did such a beautiful job. But there's one
Mm-hmm.
scene where the wife gets sick, and immediately she becomes really sick in her sick clothes, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I would do it differently. Again,
Mm-hmm.
everybody different and
Yeah. Yeah.
expression of the art, but like I would, she was so proud of the way that she always looked and so put together. I would let it be a little bit later. I would still,
Mm-hmm.
she's trying to keep the normalcy.
Yeah.
But again, those are conversations about the director and the costume designer and the actor. So who
Yeah.
knows what their expression is? But I would feel like that she would put together and then give it a little
Right.
bit more time to, because she ends up dying of cancer. So it's interesting. It's a, but those are the conversation I think that the writers need to have and the director needs to have
Mm-hmm.
and really kind of pay attention, because I think it just gives more depth to everything. It
Yeah.
just really, again, it's about us connecting with something, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about us as a viewer, us meaning viewers,
Yeah.
connecting to the character, to really seeing themselves and really kind of relating to the story, relating to the struggle, relating to the happiness, relating to whatever that is, that we're
Right.
Yeah.
trying to express. So I think the authenticity of that moment, I think that's what I think all strive as filmmakers, writers, directors. I mean, even lighting, anything that can really mess it up, you know.
Right.
I mean, for example, the DP of Clueless was so brilliant too, because Bill Pope, the way that he took the camera, and the camera was actually like a fashion eye. It's not a, it
Mm.
wasn't like long shot, half
Mhm.
shot, close up. It
Yeah.
was the camera was moving but down her leg. We saw the
Mhm.
backpack, we saw the hats, we saw
Yeah.
every little
Yes.
detail, and that was his brilliance of taking the eye and the camera and moving in that direction. So it
Mhm.
revealed to us like a fashion show.
That's so
So we
fun.
see
Yeah.
so much more. And that's again, the collaboration of all of our creative minds.
Mhm. And with rom-com leads as well, I think part of what's fun about watching these films is they're aspirational. Like we aspire to look that put together
Yeah.
and to go through that story of transformation, which I think is ultimately why Isabel and I love the rom-com, I would say. Like, I mean, there are a lot of
Mhm.
reasons, but just
Yeah.
it's a female-driven story of um of like character growth and transformation.
When you first get a script, do you just like sit down and read it through and try not to like
Yeah.
think about
Totally.
everything, and then do
Totally.
you go back? Okay, I was
Totally.
kind of curious
Yeah,
how
it's kind of
your
like a
mind
book,
works.
picking up a book and just, reading the story and getting involved in the characters. And, right away I have certain feelings and like, I may write something on the page, but it really is just read it. I sleep on it, and then I dive into it much more where I would like do a day breakdown. So I would kind of, cross under scenes where I know that it's the next day. So I kind of start thinking, okay, how many days, where would she change? Or how many times a day does she changes? What would that be?
Mhm.
She goes to school in one outfit and then she comes home, changes, and she goes out, and what that looks like, and then I do a lot of post-its and different little things where I, mark pages. And so then I can, with those questions, go to the director and kind of go, okay, what are you thinking? Oh, okay, maybe she didn't change because she just ran from home. I just want her to be like on the go. And he would say, I just want her to be like she's, moving fast. Or, she didn't change for the night, or no, she brought the clothes with her and changed at work, or whatever it is. So those are kind of the story points that then the director would tell me. Or we
Mhm.
also talk about color palette with the production designer and kind of where we are in the film, and what maybe there's a very specific color palette to things that we're
Mhm.
using. I mean, in Clueless we didn't use much black, we didn't use almost no brown, very little gray. There was
Mhm.
one scene when she's depressed and she's all in gray, but that was very
Yeah.
specific again. So we talk about all that emotional things related to the expression of each department's art. I talk a lot to the production designer and set decorator. What are the things? Where do they shop for their
Mhm.
tablecloths and sheets? And is it Laura Ashley, or is it what is it? Or are they just thrifting? Or so that all feels more cohesive. If
Yes.
they have a very sterile house and they wearing like hobo clothes, it's like,
Mhm.
well, it may not work. You know what I mean? So all of it
Yeah.
really has to come together in our conversation. So that's why we do the visual boards, and we have the meetings with the departments and the director, and then he'll be like, I don't know. Yeah, that's great. I mean, like, for example, Wedding
Mhm.
Singer is very interesting because it's a lot on everywhere.
Right.
And that was intentional. It was like crazy colors on the walls and crazy outfit. And I mean, it was just a big film on any level. But in Clueless, for example, the production designer took everything down. So there were like gray walls and everything
Mhm.
simple. So the
Yeah.
clothes can pop.
That's really interesting. Yeah, and what you're saying, yeah, clothing is such a sign of continuity in a script. Like that is something you definitely have to think about. Uh, it tells us if it's the same day or not, which is
Right. Yeah, the
something,
passage of
yeah, that
time.
Yeah.
mhm.
Or layering, now we have to make sure they have codes, so they have this, or they,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
all of
yeah. So
yeah. And I
interesting.
think personalization too, like rolling up the sleeves and how we always wear things. And I think that is
Yes.
also a sign, I think, of a good costume designer, when you really, the fit is right, so the
Yeah.
clothes feel warm, or rolled up a certain way, or, I think the problem is sometimes with time, and you're fitting people so late, and you don't really have the luxury maybe of aging things or washing things, and it just looks like kind of bad TV or something. Everybody in plaid shirts and jeans.
Yeah.
So it takes really effort and time to make sure that things are washed or you're looking at the proportion of an actor and how low it should be open, or I mean, it really is so unique to each actor because of their size of the neck or ears, or how they're gonna style their hair, or so again, what's so great about, I think, filmmaking, and maybe that's why I fall in love with it too in the beginning when I started, was the collaborative kind of effort. It's really cool because it is the writer, it is the director, it is the actor, it is me. Like if you take one thing out of the equation, it may not just work.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's really fun because it's also kind of and I'm sure when you're writing, maybe that's the way too, and you sometimes don't know where it's going a little bit. It's kind of like this beast that keeps moving, and then different parts little change, and then you have to adjust sometimes. Oh my god, they brought a green couch, they didn't tell me last minute, they changed their mind, she's wearing a shit, Drew is on the way to set, fly in another sweater.
Yeah, I think what you said earlier is really great advice for writers, because I'm thinking now about, like, I've been working on writing this Indian rom-com, and my main character, she grew up in America, and so she very much wears like American clothes, like kind of more grungy, like she's not very like a stylish person. And I'm already seeing now, like, her arc is like that last scene when she puts a sari on for the first time and she like feels truly Indian.
It's so beautiful.
I know, right? So I'm like, but
I love saris.
I literally realized this as we're talking, where I'm like, yeah, it's so true what you're saying. Like, I'm thinking about when you see her in the very beginning to where she's going, to like she's going to learn about her heritage and she's going on this character journey, become more in tune with her roots. And so now I'm thinking, like, yeah, how do we get her to that moment when like the big reveal happens, where she has her sari on and she feels like Indian for the first time. And that's like, I'm half Indian, so that's like a very much a journey I went on.
Yeah.
And so now I'm thinking, like, I think it's like, it's so true what you're saying for writers to be thinking about those little nitty gritty details can really make a difference to
how much it tells the story. Huge ways. By the way, I was born in India. I was born in Calcutta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my full name is Mondira.
Oh my gosh.
And it's Mona from that. So if the movie gets made, you have to call me. I would love to do
that. I know. I'm already
collaborate.
Like, I'm gonna have you, Priyanka Chopra. It's gonna be set in
India. India is very close to my house. I mean, my heart. And I know Rapisari, and I love the colors. I mean, color is really a big part of my work. It's really how I express myself. And I think maybe it's because I was born in India, and my first experiences of my life were surrounded by this incredible colors. And my house is very colorful. I really love the energy of color on the screen. I just think it's not used enough, and it's really uplifting too for people. I think there's something when our brains see color, wherever it is, or especially on the screen when you're watching something, there's something that gives us pleasure. The dopamine. Everybody's talking about the dopamine experience.
Dopamine dressing. That term.
Truly, I mean, I do.
Yeah, I love it, especially in the Pacific Northwest. It's needed. I should be wearing brighter colors.
Please, report. I need reports of brighter colors.
Out of curiosity, what happens to most of the costumes after a movie? Like, do you keep them? Do actors keep them? Do they?
Well, they belong to the studio.
Oh, okay. They
or network. They paid for it, so it belongs to them. A lot of times they keep them, like Warner Brothers, Universal. They have big warehouses called costume houses, so they absorb everything, and they have like giant football fields of clothes divided by period. So you can rent stuff and use, which is great.
You need to do that, Isabel. Have you guys seen the movie Big Fat Liar? It was made a long time ago. With Frankie Muniz and Amanda Bynes. And there's scenes in which they like break into those warehouses.
Oh, I have to see it.
Yeah, it came out when we were little, but I was just thinking about that, and I always thought it sounded so fun to just walk through those rooms.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Very dusty, but it's quite amazing. And there's like Western costumes, which has stuff of the turn of the century, one of the biggest costume houses in the world, and they have some in London. They're incredible. So that's that. Disney keeps everything, like Enchanted, Haunted Mansion. They keep the costumes, which is great. They also, make incredible books, which is really fun. They do like
so cool.
Oh yeah, all the photos.
So they actually do this, which is great. So
Oh,
like
cool.
really,
Oh my
so
gosh, I would love
both of my
that.
costumes are in this book, which is
Oh,
Oh my
the Haunted
gosh.
Mansion and also the Enchanted dress. So I got to have, and the Queen Narissa, the evil
that's
Queen
Oh
Narissa.
my
amazing. What
gosh,
is this
yeah.
book called? We'll link it in the show notes if we can find it
The
Costume.
Art
online.
of Disney Costuming.
Okay,
Art
we
of
will
Disney
link that.
costuming.
That looks
Yeah,
That's so
beautiful.
cool.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So that's very lucky because then it gets preserved, and then they
Hmm.
take it out on special occasions and they show it at the Disneyland, Disney Worlds. Sometimes smaller movies that just goes into the boxes in some warehouse and it dies. Sometimes actors get to take it. I mean, I think Alicia Silverstone took a lot of the costumes and they just, who knows, she gave it away. I wish that the Clueless costumes we had, that would be so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
There's so many exhibits that I'm not included, and I'm just, my heart breaks. But
Oh, yeah.
it's 30 years ago, so who knows?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so different things happen to it. But I'm happy when they can be preserved, and
Hmm.
sometimes I see my stuff in the halls. I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah,
my dress
that'd
is
be
here.
so
Oh
cool.
yeah. So we do this thing at the end. We're calling it a quick fire round. It's kind of in our minds. It's like we're towards the end of the movie. We're at the end, coming towards the end of our podcast. It's the scene where the main character is off to the airport and her love interest is chasing after her, and
Mhm.
they're asking a bunch of questions as they're trying to
That's the
figure out where they're
energy.
going. Yeah, so that's the energy. So we're just
Mhm.
gonna ask you like a few quick questions. So
Okay.
whatever comes to your mind first. Our first question is going to be, what is your favorite rom-com?
Favorite rom-com. I mean, really? I can't answer that. That's like mother being asked for whose
Mhm.
favorite child is. I mean,
Yeah.
I would. Let's say Clueless because I'm the most famous for it. So
Yes,
Yeah.
just because
yes. It's a good answer.
my heart is there forever.
Hmm.
And then do you have a favorite rom-com outfit? Either one that you designed or that's in another rom-com.
I mean, I love the yellow dress and How to Lose a Guy. That's pretty
Oh, yeah.
freaking
We've
gorgeous.
talked about that.
We've talked about
Gorgeous.
that a few times,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I'm partial to yellow, and of course, yellow plaid for me. But yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
that's a very something that stands out in my mind a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's stunning. It makes the scene for sure.
beautiful. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite rom-com moment that comes to mind? Maybe from your rom-coms or just a certain moment in a rom-com?
Uh, I mean, Clueless. You're a virgin who can't drive.
Mhm.
That's
So
pretty.
many iconic
That's a
like
I
great
mean,
iconic
line.
little
there's
lines
so
in that
many.
one.
I mean, it just pops into my mind. But I mean, there's so
Mhm.
many. God, it's beautiful.
Mhm.
Have you seen any rom-coms recently that you really love that you recommend?
I did catch, what is that movie? It's called The Holiday
Oh yeah.
with Cameron Diaz
Yes, we
and
were just
One of our
talking about that.
favorites.
Yes, Jude Law,
yes, it
Jack
was on.
Black.
It just popped on my TV and I was like, "Oh my god, I forgot about this movie. How cute it is. It's such a
So
Yeah.
feel-good movie.
cute.
It's really adorable." And so maybe that's the latest one that I saw that I just
Hmm.
really enjoyed.
The costumes in that one are so cozy too. Like I always want to get really nice
Fabulous.
sweaters whenever I watch that
Fabulous.
one.
Yeah,
Fabulous. Yeah.
we've been in
Hmm.
Christmas world lately on our podcast, and we
Yeah.
talk a lot about
Yeah.
the pea coats and the holiday
Oh,
sweaters, scarves.
Hmm.
forever.
So cozy.
Forever. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
We really want to get the writer of that one on the podcast, Nancy Myers.
Nancy Myers, yeah.
Oh
She
my
wrote a
god.
bunch of great ones. So The Parent
She's
Trap.
the greatest. I mean,
Yeah.
she's one of the
Hmm.
greatest writers, I think, of all of those. And who wrote like It's Complicated? Is it her
She wrote
too?
She
that.
wrote it.
I mean,
Hmm.
all of those, like, I love. I mean, I'm
So
really
good.
actually grateful that there's like now rom-coms about older
Yeah.
ladies too, and kind of finding themselves.
Yes.
I
Something's
don't know
gotta
if you ever
give.
saw.
Hmm.
Yeah, did you ever see that movie I did with Sharon Stone?
What is it called?
It was a smaller movie. I don't remember what is the title. Like All I Wish, maybe they've changed the title a couple times, but it's actually a rom-com about
Ooh.
a 50-year-old woman living in LA who kind of
Mhm.
finds herself, and it's
Oh,
really cool. And Sharon is great, and she really wanted to do the film. It wasn't a big budget movie, but it was really cool. And I'm so glad that she wanted to do it because she's so cool. And she kind of played this girl in LA, still going out to clubs and hanging out and being a
oh,
shop girl, and then kind of, really
Yeah.
embracing her talent as a designer. And it was really great. So check it out.
Okay,
Something
we'll
that
watch
yeah.
it. That's a
something
good
on your list you
recommendation.
haven't seen
Yeah.
yet.
Money didn't matter, like, and you could work on any kind of film as a costume designer. Like, what would be your dream, like Shakespearean or like just any sort of big
Fantasy,
costume?
fantasy,
Yeah.
fantasy. I love creating. I love coming up with stuff, like
Yeah.
stuff like Enchanted, which is, a little bit guided by the iconic characters from Disney, but I can kind of do anything, or Haunted Mansion, and,
Mhm.
really coming up with really interesting ways of telling a story that maybe people have never seen, outfits or creating stuff that doesn't have to be. I mean, I would do a period film, of course,
Mhm.
but I think we are, a lot of times it's too much like a museum piece. I find it at like how people really wore the clothes. I think Little Women, the one by Greta Gerwig, is a very good
Yes.
example because the clothes were so open as a period clothes. So
Mhm.
I like not to be constricted. I like to kind of create and have the kind of the field to play.
Yeah. What are you working on now? What's on the
Mhm.
horizon for you? And where can people follow you or stay in touch with
Mhm.
your career?
Well, they can follow me on Instagram at It's Mona May. So it's
Mhm.
ITSMONAMAY. And I love when people reach out and say hi. It's great. I don't post a lot, but I post things that really matter to me and stuff. I've been really trying to, express my creativity as much as I can with anything. I in the time of the strike, I was able to collaborate with Stitch Fix, which
Oh,
is an
yeah.
online company, and that's been really kind of a great way because they had a campaign bringing clothing, regular clothes to their clients, inspired by 90s and 2000 movies. So it was like Clueless,
Love
the
it.
90s, 90s It Girl, and Collegiate Chic. So it's
Mhm.
been a really fun way of bringing kind of, again, the film leading ladies looks to, everyday women. So that's
Yeah.
been really fun. There's a really cool article right now in LA Magazine. If you girls want to see it, I'll post it on my Instagram.
Yeah.
I've been teaching classes to 9-year-olds how to sew, to be
Oh,
creative.
yeah. I
So
saw that.
it's been really
So
fun.
cute. I saw the Taylor Swift inspired
Yeah.
outfits.
Yeah.
Love
So
it.
really sharing the creativity. And I think, again, clothes, costumes, anything that we can be creative and have fun with in the day that we live now, in the world we live now. It's really important, I think. So I really like to share that. And, how much there's nothing better than teaching someone how to sew and make their own clothes. And it was such a great experience with these girls.
Mhm.
And I mean, they were so proud of, their Swifties outfits.
Yeah.
So cute.
So
Yeah, everyone needs to go on the Instagram and look. It's a really cute
It's
post.
yeah,
really, I
really
know.
fun. So it's that's kind of my mission. Whatever I do, it's really sharing creativity and my art, and I think inspiring people and to have fun, and how to wear clothes with
Mhm.
more color and exuberance. And we need something to uplift us, and I think clothes can be really easily manage to uplift us. So that's kind of my mission. And there's always movies. I've done a lot of stuff in Europe lately. I've worked with Liam Neeson on a action film called Retribution that came out this
Ooh.
summer. For any fans of Liam Neeson, please watch it.
We
I
love
have a
Liam.
movie coming out with Kaylee Cuoco
Oh,
on
Mhm.
January 12th called Role Play. So please watch that. It's probably going to be on Amazon. It's a
Ooh.
super fun kind of action rom-com. I mean, it's she's a spy. It's super
ooh.
fun.
Yes.
We filmed it in Berlin, which was really cool. I have something in development with the director of Wedding Singer, which I'm super
Mm.
hopeful that we get to work together again. But
Oh,
the dam strike kind of put a kibosh on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I'm always open to really working with creative filmmakers and people who just kind of understand what I can bring to the project, because it's a different thing. You get a certain Monome look, and if that's right for you, I can definitely uplift the film and bring something special to it. So I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years now, and I can definitely deliver and bring something super sparkly.
Yes, your clothing celebrates femininity as well, which I think is so. I
Yeah, yeah.
love movies like that. We love rom-coms like that are just sparkly and pink and fun and uplifting. So thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think for all the girls, you and all the girls in the world, I think that's my mission to, we have to celebrate ourselves. I think there's a lot of stuff that knocked us down. I mean, even ourselves, we knock ourselves down a lot. So I think, how do we celebrate it in all shapes? And I'm really happy that now things are changing, and all shapes are celebrated, and all skin tones, and all of us, equally, which is really beautiful. It really has changed from the time I started in the 90s. So it's really wonderful, that there's so much more openness to us, and I think we rule the world as girls.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today, Mona. Like, this was so inspiring, and like we were saying, we're going to approach writing differently now, I really think.
Good.
So
Yay. Wonderful. Well, keep in touch. You can always DM me,
yes.
say hello. You have Natalie's info too. So
Yes.
and thank you, everybody. Super fun to talk to everyone, and hopefully you enjoy. Bye.
This has been an episode of When Isabel Met Aviva. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to stay up to date with our episodes, please subscribe, and you get bonus points if you leave us a positive review. You can follow us on Instagram at When Isabel Met Aviva, on TikTok at When Isabel Met Aviva, and on Twitter it's just at Isabel Met Aviva. We're both on Instagram and Twitter. If you have questions or just want to chat about screenwriting, or your love for rom-coms, or just want to obsess over them, like, definitely feel like you can reach out to us to chat about anything screenwriting and rom-com related. My Instagram is just at Isabel_K_T. On Twitter, I'm at It Writes Comedy. This will all be in the show notes. And Aviva, what are your socials?
Yeah, I'm just Aviva Pelton, Peltin, everywhere. So on Instagram and Twitter. And we also wanted to mention, because some people are not aware of this, but we also have captioning on on all of our episodes on some platforms. So if you go to Spotify, you can see the captions there. I believe you have to be signed in, but don't quote me. And on YouTube, we have all our episodes there as well, and there are captions. So accessibility is really important to us. Also, reach out and let us know if there's anything we can do to make this show more accessible, because yeah, that's important. So please let us know. So thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.
Yay.
Bye, everyone.
And don't forget to watch and read as many rom-coms as you can. Bye.
Bye.